Evening all. Oh, it's Chinwag Thursday again. Hello, I'm Liz Allen. Now, right, it is Thursday. I've had such a week. I kind of probably look really jaded at the moment, and my husband's going to go, "Yeah, that's probably because of the couple of glasses of wine you've already had." So, yes, hello. Actually, do you know there's a friend of mine. I'm going to call him a friend because I kind of know him a little bit now. But there's a chap called Tom Stanhope who you've probably seen. He's kind of done some of my the videos that I've been posting on the group, and he every week he does a thing called Content and Cocktails, and every week he has like a live session where he has a cocktail as well as talking about video content. And I've already said to him, God, I don't know how you do it. How do you manage? How do you actually manage to do it so that you actually have a cocktail at the same time as kind of you're talking about what you do? Now, me and my husband we had dry January now, and I don't know whether it's the fact that I'm making up for it, but anyway, so tonight I have to say I've had a couple of glasses of wine, so I hope you don't mind. I'm probably a little bit bit more loose in the tongue, but I shouldn't be saying that really, should I? But actually, do you know what? Hopefully we're all friends in here by now, and hopefully you'll kind of realize that from some of the actual posts that we post, they're helpful and slightly light-hearted, because I think if we all take ourselves a bit too seriously, then what is the point, you know? And I'm really, oh Tom, oh Tom, thank God you're here. How do you do it every week? Honestly, I have to say, right, okay, there I have a glass of rum. I also have a cup of tea from my husband. I don't know what he was trying to say to me, honestly. So yeah, just how you do Content and Cocktails every week with Bernard. I don't mean you have Bernard there, the Bernard book. I don't know how you do it. So, but I can see I've got my split screen. See, I'm clever. Oh God, you know, Tom, don't tell me off. I've not actually put my ring light on, but it seems the light seems to be okay. All right, so I think I've got my light okay-ish. Mostly, I've got this weird shadow there. It's kind of there, isn't it? Look, and I never talked about it. Sammy, hello. Hi, how are you? Nice to see you. Good evening. Oh my God, you're on here, and I've had a little bit of wine, so you wouldn't have had that last week when we were talking. So, but yeah, but I'm actually sat in the same place that I was last week, because this is my office. This is my kind of the place that I do everything from, you know, all business wise. No excessive glass. Oh, thanks, Tom. Yeah, look, do you know what? Now, if you weren't actually talking, if I wasn't talking on here, you would have no idea. I don't normally wear. I kind of own rich. Sorry, my husband's. My husband's actually putting a. If for those of you who are actually watching the comments come up. And Tom, I am realizing that I won't do what we were talking about on the boot camp. I won't put them up straight away, because he's just put up a picture of a glass of red wine, because that's kind of what I've had. But it's really, really been one of those weeks. That's all I can say. Thursday feels like it should be kind of Friday or Saturday. You know, when you wake up. They're not wine glasses, Rich. They're really not. They're really not. But seriously, if I wasn't on this, so normally you'll talk to me and I look like this. Okay, which most people, and actually, because I'm looking at you all, and I'm got some kind of squinting, because, but if we were out and about, I would never wear my glasses. But because as I'm an age, I'm not even going to tell you the age that I'm at. But if you're on our newsletter, you'll probably. If you want to sign up to our newsletter, have a look at fullcircleci.co.uk, and actually you will see there is a newsletter coming out in the next few days that will probably give you a bit of an indication of my age. I don't really want to say to people. I might have even talked to you, Sammy, about it. But yeah, I'm old. I'm definitely older than you, Tom. But anyway, so I think you're probably younger than my husband. Let's just shush, 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 shush. Anyway, so tonight, Matthew, sorry, that's not even right either. Tonight, I'm here to talk. There's a few things I wanted to talk about. So hopefully, for those of you who had a look at the video from, now I'm going to pronounce Anne's name correctly this time, Anne Diamond. So I was calling it Anne Dimment, which is totally incorrect. I'm in the 30s club. Totally, darling. Totally. Absolutely. I'm not going to, I'll put your comments on in a bit. But so hopefully you'll recognize that you'll see that Anne Diamond, who I was interviewing a few weeks ago, is actually in a band, and she is down in Glastonbury. So if you can see, if you have a look at the hashtag Clash Mob that I posted on the group earlier on this week, you'll see that actually she was. I thought it was pretty amazing actually that was their band under a gazebo, which obviously keeping them nice and warm and toasty-ish. But then there were a load of different guitarists around playing Should I Stay or Should I Go by The Clash. Now, hi, Michelle. Yeah, I'm saying nothing. I'll just show you this. But anyway, there you go. So actually, that was a really good YouTube video. So if you get a chance to have a look, so it's one band playing with loads of guitarists and loads of bassists. And there was a lad on there that was probably the same age as our son, who's 16, but James plays piano. So, but just brilliant. It was kind of really kind of that was my era. So again, I'm giving you a bit of an idea of my age, but there you go. So yeah, as I said to you, I have been on. We were on Dry January, and what date are we on now? It's the 10th. Last weekend. Well, that was the start of, I don't know what it was. I think probably because I had my sling taken off, because for you guys that have been on here a few times, you know that I had my shoulder operation at Christmas, kind of just before Christmas. And it was pretty naff, really. That it was rotator cuff, which basically means, and I'm not going to try and make anybody feel queasy or anything like that, but it basically means that they ended up having to take some bone off underneath this shoulder blade here. So it's been pretty foul, to be honest. And I've been on really strong painkillers. So just to actually be able to, not be on the strongest of painkillers and have a few little wee drams. Yes. Anyway, I'm from Yorkshire. Come on, I'm allowed. It's part of my makeup. It was part in my contract when I was born. Must be able to. I'm not even saying that anyway. I'll shut up. Michelle's going to go, oh God, I was talking to her about 2 hours ago. And anyway. Right. So this is what we're here for. Not for the alcohol or the Clash Mob or anything like that. But please do look at Clash Mob. Honestly, it's really worth looking at. And hopefully you'll kind of enjoy watching Anne's band. And I'm so jealous because me and Rich, my husband, we're both in a band and we've not played for such a long time. Painkillers rock. yeah, Chris, I will put these messages on soon, but I'm otherwise it's going to totally. I was being taught properly. Oh yeah, so Rich is just. Do you know what? I am just gonna, Tom. I was listening to you yesterday. I'm just going to put this on now. Hang on a second. So for those of you, actually, here we go. So this is from Rich, my husband. So this is the Clash Mob, which I showed on. I kind of shared on on a post the other day. So that is and Diamond, and it was her husband and their band, and they were playing Should I Stay, Should I Go. So that is the link. So take a look at it, but it's really good, and we were I felt very jealous because I think they've got their own little studio. Me and Rich actually met in a band when we kind of, oh gosh, what, 1999, Rich, and so we've kind of been, the music's been a big thing for us, well, kind of over the years. And I think with a lot of people, the same, trying to cope with COVID and everything, it's been a little bit difficult. But like I said to you, I'm going to be, there's a newsletter. If you are signed up to our newsletter, then you'll see a little bit of personal stuff from me, and actually we'll probably share it in some posts about kind of my background, you know, with regards to kind of music and stuff, because it's just part of my life. So, and yeah, but there you go. But look, we are here to talk about continuous improvement. Yay, get all those geek hats on. Woo! Anyway, so look, I've talked to you guys before, and there are people, especially people like Sammy, who are watching at the moment, who have been working in continuous improvement. I've been working in continuous improvement since the late 1990s. And actually it's one of those things, and Tom, who's watching tonight, listened to me talking about this before. It was a few weeks ago. So Tom's the one who I've actually, the little video clips that I've been posting, and Tom is the videographer. Absolutely smashing. So Tom, thank you very much, love. Thank you. Brilliant. I really appreciate it, because I think it worked. Do you know, it's funny actually doing video that's kind of remote. You kind of think in-person video works or work better, but actually it worked. I thought it worked really, really well. So I was quite pleased with that. But if I talk about, you know, you've seen a couple of the videos about where, you know, kind of what I do with continuous improvement, and when I started getting involved, and it was the late 1990s. And it was something that I didn't actually realize, and Tom heard me talk about this as well, where I think I've always been one of these people who has tried to speak up for the underdog, you know, and I don't mean that in a really derogatory way whatsoever. It's just people who felt like they were unable to speak up for themselves. So I think when I first started work, it got to a point where, you know, I kind of realized that I could see things. I don't mean like spooky things. I could see where the gaps were with regards to sorting, you know, different processes out, or kind of this doesn't quite work this way, or this doesn't quite work. So, and I could tend to look at things holistically and kind of go, oh, so actually a lot of this is to do with the fact that you're not talking to these people here. And actually a lot of the stuff that I've done over the years, before I even got involved in proper kind of deep dive in continuous improvement, was to do with the fact that I was trying to introduce people to a new way of working and talking to one another. Because so where I'm from West Yorkshire, and I know Sammy, who's watching at the moment, she's you're Lancashire, aren't you, Sammy? So there's kind of a certain way of looking at things sometimes when you're up there, and sometimes it takes a little while for people to kind of get. And I think it's not just up north, seriously. I think it just depends what kind of organization you're working with, where they start kind of recognizing people and the voice that they've got, you know. And I kind of said this to Tom, that you know, that trying to get people to be recognized isn't always very easy. So I think I was kind of becoming that voice of those people, or maybe recognizing that there was a problem with the voices, where people were trying to say, yeah, but this thing isn't quite working, and actually getting people to be recognized again by those management, the members of the management, where they were the ones doing the work, and if they saw things going wrong, it was just all about trying to get people to be, or get the management to actually listen to these people. So my toolkit has been a lot to do with people. So I started off working quite holistically in about the late 1990s. I worked with a pharmaceutical company at the time, and they were having problems getting their product out, and they thought it was to do with their export processes, because their shipping department weren't quite doing what they thought they were doing. But actually, it wasn't that. There were so many other things that were causing them problems. Some of it was to do with their supply chain not being able to provide on time. Sometimes it was to do with stock that was in the warehouse that was being cannibalized for something else, because somebody, oh, well, I haven't got that, so I'm going to nick this bit off that bit, so therefore, and then people going, oh, I can't find this thing, but it was there a minute ago. So there was, so that was kind of me going in and talking to people about, right, okay, so let's have a look at all these areas that you need to, you need to improve, because this is happening, and this is happening, and this is happening. But when it got to about 2003, I started working for a consultancy, and we were working on a government contract. And I kind of, before that, I just got into what we call lean process improvement, and a lot of it was to do with manufacturing. And it gave me kind of like a way of going, I've seen all this before, but I've now got a name for it. And people like Sammy, maybe you're nodding your head, I'm not sure, but kind of looking at those things where actually I kind of recognize all this stuff, but I just didn't know what it was. So this is, I kind of started using lean, which is basically a tool to reduce waste. So, and when we talk about waste, we don't talk about stuff that you're putting out in your rubbish bin. I mean, nowadays it kind of is, but we're talking about there's a number of wastes. So we talk about the eight wastes. She's nodding. That's good, Sammy. We talk about the 8 wastes, and the 8 wastes are kind of, I'm not going to, there's various different versions I could talk to you about, but some of them are even to do with not using the people that you've already got in your organization. Because actually, if you can be in an organization and actually not even know who you're working with, you don't know that these, and I talked to Michelle about this, if you're still watching, Michelle, I was talking to Michelle about this earlier on today, about, we would, or maybe it was yesterday, talking about, well, I won't know what she has done in the past, and actually she probably doesn't know what I've done in the past. But it isn't until you share all that stuff that you realize what a wealth of knowledge and experience that you've actually got in the organization that you're working in, unless you're using them all. So, I mean, for example, I'll give you an example. So when I still lived in Halifax, which is a long time ago now, when I still lived in Halifax, I worked for the Halifax Building Society. Surprise, surprise. And actually, as you can tell, I talk quite a lot, and it's not just because I've had a little bit of wine, but so I actually was working and kind of. Do you know what? I saw a message. Oh, yes, you're still here. Do you know what? I saw it popping up then before it even came up on the messages, Michelle, then. So it's totally thrown me off my track. But what I was going to say was, when I was in Halifax, they didn't recognize, they just saw the fact that I was just chatty. I was working in a department called Deeds Admin, which is kind of processing the sort of like all the title deeds of your properties, if you were with the Halifax or Lloyd's TSB now. And actually, I was just seen as this chatty person, but they never really saw the kind of the benefit that I could have given. Of course, I would have still been there, but no, I actually do still have friends who are still working for the Halifax. Bless them. Actually, no, one of them's retired, and I don't even want to talk about that because I'm not jealous at all. But anyway, no, I'm not. Anyway, so like I say, you kind of start putting all these things together and kind of recognizing where that that it doesn't necessarily matter where you work, but all there's always something that happens. And when we talk about the 8 wastes, there are a number of wastes, and sort of like where things go wrong. It's a defect. It's kind of it's to do with people. It could be to do with things that actually happen multiple times. I'm not going to go into it. But I mean, what I am going to talk about is my favorite. This is so geeky for those of you that don't know anything about improvement, but my favorite process improvement tools. And I'm going to give you I've written a few things down here, so you won't have to mind me. And I already had these written down this afternoon because I was very organized. So for those of you, and Sammy will definitely be nodding now, and anybody else, I don't know whether Simon's on here. In fact, if you are, Simon, you can send me a little hi. But basically, some of the tools that I absolutely love, and I'm going to give you some examples of where I've used them, because when I was talking to the guys, so Chris and Michelle last week after we were talking to Alistair Hall, it was sometimes it's hard for people who come on here. Oh, Simon, yay, hi, hello, Lovey. So we're just saying, sometimes it's hard for people, and I'm gonna drag you on here soon. You know that, Simon, you're coming on in March, aren't you? But it's sometimes hard for people, say like somebody like Alistair, who was working in a big organization like BT, to kind of give an example of the type of problem that you've solved. It's not always that easy, because sometimes you've got to be careful about what you're saying. But I'm going to be able, I think I can actually give you some ideas of things that I've done and over the years, and give you some examples. And I'm not going to talk about any of your stuff, Simon, so don't worry. So there's some other stuff, really. In fact, it doesn't really matter. In fact, I do need to talk to you, Simon, another time, though, because there'll be something I want to talk to you about. But anyway, so some of my favorite tools. So I've got them written down here. Problem solving. I'm sure you haven't realized that I absolutely love problem solving. Just really do. We talk about fishbone analysis, which looks like that, which is my favorite. I'll talk to you about that in a minute. We talk about 5 whys that everybody thinks that reminds them of children, because it's about asking a question, drilling down to a problem 5 times or less, or maybe more sometimes, until you get to the root cause. Process mapping. Now, for those of you who don't know me, and Simon's seen me do this, hang on, there's another message coming. You have to draw it with fish's head and tail. I know you do. I know I've got the NAF version of it. Yeah, I do. But fishbone analysis, yeah, that's one of my favorite. Process mapping. If people have got problems or just anything that they want to actually understand their processes in their business or wherever they're working, whether they're working in education or universities, Richard Allen, you can actually map a process from start to finish, and it just provides so much clarity. Karen, oh my goodness. Oh, well, I've got it. Hello, hang on. Oh, hang on. Now, this is Karen. Now, hello, lovely. Hello, darling. Nice to see you. I haven't seen you on here for ages. It's obvious to telling people I'm on here, which is great. And do you know, I've had a glass of wine or so. But anyway, we won't go there. Nice to see you, lovey. Nice to see you. Sorry, it always comes up because I'm using a different streaming app to when, Karen, to when me and you were kind of, I think hopefully Tom's still on here. But when we were doing our little live stuff with Tom, he was using StreamYard, and I'm using a thing called Melon that he's also passed me on to, because it's pretty cool. The only thing it doesn't actually say your name. So, but that is you, Karen. So thank you ever so much for being on. That's great. But as I was saying, so there's some really, really, precious. I was going to say precious. That's not the right word. Brilliant tools that I've kind of used over the years, which make a massive, massive difference. But the one thing, there's a couple of things that reminded me of this last week. So there's a woman that actually, now that Simon's on, yeah, Simon, I was actually talking to Amanda Sims the last week. So, and Simon knows exactly who I'm talking about. So, but anyway, so Amanda, who used to work with Simon, she works with a company called it's called Talent Dynamics. And I've always been really, really interested in identifying somebody's profile as a person. Yeah, she is lovely. So identifying somebody's profile as a person, but specifically in relation to work, kind of all the things that you like and the things that you don't necessarily like. And Michelle, you might like this as well. So there is, and I think, Simon, I might have given you this before, but if you look at, oh crikey, what is it called? I've just written it down as well. I'm going to find this later. Oh yeah, that's it. So have a look. There's a website called 123 Test. So number 123 Test, and have a look for. I think it's called Team. It's something like Team Dynamics or Team Test. But basically, the idea is, when I said to you about people not talking to one another, there's a profiling tool besides this Team Dynamics. There's a profiling tool it's called Belbin, and there's a chap from kind of like, I think it's about the 1950s where this chap called Meredith Belbin, he actually put together this kind of profiling tool, which actually highlights what you like at work, what's kind of what you get a buzz out of, what you really enjoy, and the things that you don't enjoy. So the idea is that when you're putting a team together, and actually, Sam, you might, if you've not used this, then maybe have a look at 123 Test. Actually, so the idea is to kind of identify which people should go with which role. So if you've got like a team, it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you've got a team working together, you kind of, I've seen a company, and it was probably around sort of like probably the year after I was working with you guys, Simon, and this company basically had, I think we'd split them into 20. There were 21 people, and we'd split them into 3 groups. And there were 2 guys in one group that just clashed massively. But it wasn't until I actually ran the Belbin, or this is the 123 Test, that actually these 2 guys totally fit into the same criteria. They were both the same. And the explanation was that they were both classed as chairmen. So actually, they both wanted their own way in a conversation. And actually, if you're looking at people working together, it doesn't always work that way if you're kind of getting 2 people that are just fighting with each other like that. I was talking to a guy today. I was running an apprenticeship exam today, and he was basically saying that there was one guy, and actually he's in Halifax, where I'm originally from, and he was kind of saying that one of the chaps was quite vocal on certain days, and this guy started, or the chap that was doing the exam with, started recognizing that probably the reason why this guy was so vocal was that he'd been left out of conversations about changes that people were going to make. And I've said this to you guys before, that what it's like if you feel like that change is enforced on you, then of course you're going to get a bit peeved about it. And actually, so this guy was he was a very gentle person, and you could see that actually he was thinking about it quite a lot, about the way that he'd been talking to this guy. And they were running a thing called Insights Training, which is very much like the Belbin test. So there's 3 different versions. So if any of you are interested, so this is, well, it's actually 4 now, I can tell you this one. So if you search, if anybody's interested and you want to find out about the people that you're working with and the types of people that you're working with, so do a search for Belbin, Okay, so in fact, there's a few that I've written them all down here anyway, and I can put it in the I'll put it in the chat as well. So you can look at Belbin, and you can actually get your team members, or even you guys, just individuals, to actually have a look at this and just identify where you sit. Kind of like, what does this sound right? Notepad at the ready. Good, that's good, Sammy. So kind of actually highlighting, kind of where you feel that you actually sit with regards to your preferences, really, with work. So, like I say, so there's it's called 123reg.com. Sorry, not 123reg. 123test. Ignore me, Sammy, on that first bit. 123test.com. And I think it's team roles. Okay, so it's called team roles test. Then you need to have a look as well for Belbin test. And actually, there's a paper test that you can actually get, that you can run off for your team. Then this next one, now, bizarrely enough, this was something that happened about 3 years ago. And there's a thing called DISC training. It's DISC, DISC training. And when I started working for this company down in Bridgewater, which seems mental, because if you know how far Reading is and Bridgewater, that was like 2 hours. So it was, oh, you're doing it as well, Michelle. That's good. So if you kind of have anyway, so the company that I started working for, sorry, I've got a really itchy nose. The company that I started working for, they ran this DISC training, and that actually also identified, kind of, again, in a way, but slightly kind of more it was looking at an employed person, and like I say, I'm self-employed now, so it's slightly different, but looking at the kind of the things that you like doing, and the things that actually you're not so keen on. But also it gave the person who was your line manager a bit more of an idea about what they need to do to support you in those areas that you felt that you needed more support in. And actually, I looked at mine, and it was really quite accurate. So it's DISC training, but you have to actually get, that's a paid thing. So for Belbin, for DISC training, that is actually paid. But actually, if you've got a team working with you, for somebody like you, Sammy, that might work. Now, there's another one. So the thing I was talking about for talent dynamics. Now, I do know somebody. I was just talking about Amanda. Now, if anybody wants a talent dynamics kind of sort of like doing using talent dynamics, which is a similar thing where you'd actually look at it with your team, then I can probably pass you on to somebody. With Belbin, sorry, with the DISC training, there is somebody that might be able to help you, but let me know. Just message me direct if you want, through Facebook Messenger, if you want any of this. But yeah, so talent dynamics is another one, and I actually had that done recently, and again, slightly different, but that was to more, I would say that was that worked for me more kind of on a leadership side of things. So there's a variety of different things, and there's also understanding people's learning styles. So and I know that that Simon will know this, and probably maybe even Sammy. So people learn in different ways. Being in education for so many years now, I recognize that certain people learn visually, certain people learn by listening to stuff. I mean, like, the way I learn these days is a lot different to how it used to be. So I mean, before I haven't been able to drive for like 6-8 weeks, but I used to love sitting in the car and listening to podcasts. And I loved listening to it, because that was kind of, if there wasn't any music that I wanted to listen to, because I'm, like I said to you, I really love my music, then I would actually kind of, I'd be listening to podcasts. But people learn in different ways. So a learning styles questionnaire, you can find that on the internet for free. So that's another option. So get yourself a learning styles questionnaire, because that works really, really well, and it'll help you, especially if you've got a team of people. That will take you to a slightly different level. It'll help you understand how they learn. So for example, you can't just assume that somebody learns the same way as you, and you can't get annoyed with somebody because they learn differently to you. You need to be able to understand why they learn that way in the first place. So all of these things, you've probably worked this out, that I'm really into people. I'm really into communication and making sure that things work, kind of communication wise and understanding people. Hang on a second. So let me just see. I've kind of got to the end of what I was talking. I'm not quite got to the end, but I'm just going to put some of these up. So hang on. So Michelle, hang on. Let me just see what Chris is saying. I've been training in 2 weeks' time. I'll report back. I did another analysis recently where I came out as Guardian Creative. Can't remember what it's called. No, I know what you mean, though. That's good if you were doing that. And Simon is saying, hang on a second. I'm not putting that on yet. I'm going to show you in a minute. Hang on. So we've got, so this is Simon saying, VARC tests were extremely helpful in improving the speed and effectiveness of training as you understand their learning style and you can tailor training to fit them. But I also think, Simon, it's good for them to understand as well, because not everybody understands how they learn. I think it's really important to understand how you learn in the first place. And this is Chris saying, I learn best by someone hitting me over the head with a rolled up newspaper until I get it right. Well, actually, there were days in Halifax when I used to go around with kind of that kind of thing, but that's not really, you can't really do that now. Hang on a second. So what else we got here? I think this is Michelle. Was this Michelle saying, oh, no. Hang on a minute. Sorry. On the wrong one. Learn best visually. If it's written, I have to write what is written for it to sink in. Do you know what, Michelle? That is definitely what I've been trying to tell my 16-year-old, that because he's getting ready to do his GCSEs. And I really think that actually, it makes such a difference, doesn't it? Writing stuff down, you're learning it and then writing it down because it works. But not everybody does that. It's very different at a young age. And you know what it's like. It's one of those things, when you're 16, you always think you can rule the world and you know everything. So, and Simon, you're saying knowing how you learn, also learning how you work really helps bring out your strengths. Totally. I think that's really, really important. So I said to you about the learning styles questionnaire, the problem solving, like I said to you. So if any of you now, do you know what we did this? I'm going to just have a quick drink of tea. Hang on a second. Tom, you will tend to do this, have a drink of something. This is tea. I have rum, but I'm having tea. So we did this at home. For those of you that know, like I said to you, this is a fishbone diagram, a fishbone analysis. Now we used this a few years ago now. Okay. But I use a lot of this at home because I think it actually can work in a home environment. For those of you that have done this, then you'll recognize it. And actually, so on a fishbone diagram, sorry, this is we call it root cause analysis. So this is the problem. This is supposed to, and it's a lot nicer when it looks like a fish, but that's supposed to be the fish's head. Then you've got like the bones of the fish there, and the rest of him come off here. And each one is to do with kind of like a specific part of it. So hang on a second. So look, I don't know whether, yeah, I can see it. That's the way you do it. That's the people that are involved. That's the environment. So mother nature. That bit is like the system that you're working on. That's the material that you're working on, and that's kind of any measurement. So anyway, if you're collecting data. Anyway, so we did this for my son a few years ago, and my husband's hopefully is still on. And actually, we did this specifically because James, our son, wanted to leave Scouts. Okay, it might sound nothing to you guys, but actually, to be able to prove that this was it was the right thing to do, it made a massive thing. So Simon, for you, might be an idea for you as well, love, but in certain situations. But actually, so we knew that the head of the fish, go back to this, the head of the fish, so that bit there. The problem was our son wanted to leave. Oh, was it Scouts, or maybe it was I know it was Scouts. Okay. And some of these issues here were the fact that he felt bullied by some of the younger kids, because our son is our only child, and actually in some ways he's not quite as confident. It's changed now, thank goodness, but that's when he was at primary school. So actually it was identifying on those things which were the main causes of his problems. That's what we call root cause analysis. Okay, it's actually drilling down to the root cause of what the problem is. In fact, I've just realized that I was going to give you some examples of some of the work that I've actually done in the past, but do you know what? I'm going to say, you never join the dots. It could help with your eldest. Yeah, do it seriously, Simon. It's really worth doing. A lot of this stuff you can use for your family, you can use for your kids, because you know that in fact, even if James does take the mickey about, oh, we're going to do a root cause analysis, Mum, I'm going to get a fishbone diagram, Mum, you know, it works, you know, and actually he remembers it. The fact he's taking the mickey out of me when he's 16, it means that it works. But so I'm gonna skip back a little bit, because I have my list, like I said, and I wanted to talk to you about some of this stuff. And because of the fact, like I said last week, that we didn't really talk about specifics, you know, we talked about different tools and stuff like that. And I'm hoping I've kind of given you some ideas and some sort of and I know I'm probably going to go over the 45 minutes, but I'll try and keep it as quick as I can, because I think it's still quite important talking about this. But look, so if I go back to one of my other favorite tools was process mapping, and I want to highlight this to anybody who doesn't do this, okay, and you don't recognize that it's important in your work. So I used process mapping with an organization. They were based in Chelmsford, and this company basically they were, and I can't tell you too much, but basically what they were doing was they were sending out, and you might have heard some of my videos, they were sending out engineers onto site, and it was customer sites. And what was actually happening was, so a call would come in to a call center in a different place. The information that came in was incorrect. So that was fed through to the operations center. So they were feeding through incorrect information through to the operations center. Okay. And actually, once it got to the operations center, they were sending out a technician. So we call them a technician on the information that they actually had. So when that technician actually turned up to site, they weren't kitted out to do it. They weren't kitted out. They weren't ready to do the work that they should do. And we're talking about a situation where they were working on people's houses, and this is external parts of the houses, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. And in certain situations, they have to talk to the council to get certain things shut down in order for them to actually gain access to certain areas of the external part of your house. Anyway, so what would then happen was that technician would have to contact the operations department, not the kind of where the call center, not the call center. They'd contact operations to say, I couldn't do this work. And instead, what I'm going to have to do is we're going to have to refer another person to come in. So then the next person would come in. Now you've got in this company you had certain levels. So like level 1 did this much, and then level 2 did this, and then level 3. And actually what was constantly happening was a level 1 person would go in and they couldn't effect a repair. And then the second one would go in, they couldn't effect a repair. And then the third one would go in and they probably could. When we process map this, okay, so what we're talking about when I'm talking about process mapping, I am talking about identifying, right, okay, what happens here, then next, and then next, and then next. There's a thing, if you have a look, you can look at this up. It's called, my favorite is swim lane mapping. So it's basically when you've got lots of different departments where this works in, because I think this works really, really well. So swim lane map, it goes from one department to another department to the next department to the next department, etc. And in the end up, these guys worked out from swim lane mapping while I was with them that they could save £250,000 just by making sure that, firstly, the information that came through from the call center was correct, because we're talking about a paragraph, a couple of sentences perhaps, to get that accuracy of information through to that first line engineer or technician. Then the second thing was making sure that all the technicians were all trained up. So we call this cross skilling. Okay. So making sure that these guys were actually cross skilled, so that they would be level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, they would all be able to cover each other's work. So actually, if you got somebody who was going in and they were at the wrong level because they got the wrong information, they could still do that work. But it was going to save them £250,000. Yes, there'd be a little bit of offset for training, but actually it's a lot of money, so that's why, I mean, I am a bit of a geek when it comes down to it. So I get very excited when we look at process mapping. Okay, then then the other one is, do you know what, I've talked about problem solving a little bit as well. I'm gonna actually probably finish on that in a minute, because I think 250 grand is quite a big thing to kind of recognize that the money that you can actually save, in a company. And I'm not saying it was a small company, it's quite a large size company, but just, I think it makes a massive difference. Finally, okay. And I've seen this in a company that I'm contracting with at the moment. If you know of a thing called version control. Now, if you're less likely to have, and Chris is watching this, so I think, so actually he might get this. So when you are working with lots of people with documents online, I'm not talking about physical paper documents, I'm talking about electronic documents. Something that's really, really important is to actually have version control of a document. So you'll start off with version 1 of a document. You've kind of done a draft of a document, you're sending it out to people, and then they've come back with kind of suggestions of changes. And then actually you've made those changes, and therefore you call it version 2, or you call it, what's today's date? So 10/02/22, same document name, but 10/02/22. At the moment, I'm currently working with an organization where everybody's working differently. We're all kind of quality assurance type people. But the information, and I'm kind of like, we do quality control, but then I'm kind of the next level of quality control as well as other people. But actually, version control makes a massive, massive difference. That actually, if you're sending something and you're sharing it if you've got it on a shared drive, then people don't actually know, well, so which is that version? Which one do I need to use? Is it that date or is it that date? And actually, so just simple things. It's all about improvement, and version control of a document is dead simple, but it's just something that makes people's jobs a massive difference. Even kind of, so it's me and Chris and Michelle, we probably need to do this. There's 3 of us working together, so there's probably stuff that we need to do, in fact we probably are already doing some stuff, but it's once you start getting more people involved, delete all of the versions apart from your own. But that doesn't always work though, Chris, because sometimes, present it as a master version, sneer at alternative versions, job done. But I just think it's always, I am very much of the mind that keeping hold of something, just, yes, get rid of it eventually. Once you've got your master version, then you can get rid of the older versions. But in order to make sure that you have the latest one and everybody knows which one the latest is, just make sure that it's got version control on it. So it's dead simple. It's just a name. Version control is a really posh name of renaming it something or giving it a number or something different that actually makes you realize that actually it's not that one, it's that one, you know? So look, I think I've taught to you. I've gone over time. I always try and make this less than 45 minutes. But hopefully you've got something from this. Now, like I say, I still have tea and I still have some rum. I will be drinking my tea first, but the rum smells absolutely gorgeous. So have a wonderful evening, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend. And I will see you next week. I think I've got Tim Evans on. And actually, I worked with Tim when I was talking to you about Bridgewater. I worked with Tim a few years ago, and he has actually worked with he's worked in improvement as well for a long time, and specifically in leadership. So he's going to give us some leadership nuggets as well, because he actually created a mini MBA for an organization he was working with. So listen, have a lovely weekend. And it does feel like it's Friday already, and I know it's not. So I'm sorry if you're all working tomorrow, but I will be a bit. But anyway, good night and see you later. Bye. Oh, that should have gone.